this month is about vocation. And I know normally we wait until next month we talk about peace and so on. But I figured that could I just give a little background on the whole business of peace, the Rotary Club, the Rotary's movement, role in promoting peace worldwide, the partnership with the Institute for Economics and Peace, what they promote as positive peace, and of course, peace activators, and how much are we promoting peace as Rotarians, as part of our vocation or as a vocation. So that is what we'll be focusing on, the partnership, and I will start by giving a brief overview, kind of a thumbnail sketch of Rotary's history of promoting peace. Peace, as you know, all Rotarians know, is a cornerstone of the work of RI. And then I will talk a little bit about the Rotary IAP partnership. And at the end, I hope that you will see that you have been doing peace work, but I hope that you'll be a little bit more vocal about it and with the understanding of positive peace and the benefits and so on. So, strictly speaking, the concept of peace and the quest to establish it has been around for centuries. From as early as the 3rd century, religious schools, philosophy, cultures defined and advocated for peace. Then we moved on to, the centuries, as you can see on your screen. We had the Field League of Nations coming out of the Paris Conference. Then we had 1945, the 50 nations agreed to an international treaty to enshrine the equal rights of all people and maintain peace, and that was the United Nations Charter. Then we had in 1959 a Norwegian, Johan Galtung, who was a sociologist, was the principal founder of the Peace and Conflict Studies. And many of you, maybe through your studies, you have come across concepts like structural violence, came out of his work. 1975, Foundation for Peace Studies in New Zealand and the Institute for Peace in Hiroshima, Japan. We can understand why. Then in 2014, the Institute for Economic and Peace came on the scene, publishing the first positive peace report. And in 25, they continued that work. So Rotary has a distinguished history in peace because as a humanitarian organization, peace is critical to the work that Rotary does. Now, work from a pre-World War II resolution calling for the maintenance of peace to the present, Rotary has developed diverse approaches to peace building and conflict prevention. It is embedded in everything that is Rotary. You look at the structure and practices of Rotary International, you look at the core values of RI, you can see the very first one is about service. It's about the activities and programs undertaken to promote greater understanding and peace. And everything that falls below, fellowship, diversity, integrity, all of that is about building that kind of relationship, about being fair and respectful in our interaction, being accountable. Leadership that really seeks to build on for the young people to bring them up into leadership position by us implementing these core values. And of course, the 4-way test and the object of Rotary reflect the core values, underscoring the extent to which peace is a cornerstone of Rotary Foundation. Now, we have many avenues for Rotary service and promoting peace because our club service is about making our clubs thrive, and that is anchored by the relationships within the club themselves and active membership with the outside in the community. And really, you can't do all of that if there is not internal peace in the club and having the knowledge and skills to go out there and promote peace with the community that we want to serve. Our vocational service, again, we are expected to work with integrity and to help solve the problems and needs of our community. community service again. We are encouraged to find ways to improve the quality of life of people in our community, serve public interest. And public safety and security is one of the things that people need the most, because that is the environment, generally speaking, in which all our other activities take place for us to, our potential to shine forth. And of course, in terms of Rotary's international service, its global reach is far and wide in terms of promoting peace. And of course, our youth service is about empowerment of youth and young professionals through the leadership development programs. So Rotary, as you know, correct me if I am not correct, PPA, I didn't check. I think Rotary started 1905. And by 1914, the Rotary Convention was resolving to lend its influence to the maintenance of peace among the nations of the world, just weeks before World War I broke out in Europe. 1921, they amended the convention, amended the constitution, that is RI's constitution, to include its goal to aid in the advancement of international peace and goodwill. In 1922, the convention incorporated that goal into the object of Rotary, which, the advancement of international understanding, goodwill, and peace through a world of fellowship of business and professional persons united in the ideal of service. Ideal of service is about putting self up, doing it for others rather than for self. So Rotary, as advocates of Rotarians, as advocates of peace, has a long history of mobilizing persons from different vocations to encourage and foster understanding and promote peace. So when you look in 1934, Rotarians in Nashville organized 11 days of public community meetings. They invited prominent authors and economists and so on to discuss issues such as the economy, world peace, and scientific advances. And this initiative became known as Institutes of International Understanding. And in 1936, RI suggested that other Rotary clubs, emulate this endeavor. So by the end of the next decade, there were about 965 clubs in the Americas, Australia, New Zealand, and so on that sponsored these institutes. But with all of that going on, you know that the rumblings of conflict was still there, was on the horizon. And so by 1940, Rotary found itself existing amid a world of conflict. And they recognized that where freedom, justice, truth, sanctity of the pledged word, and respect for the pledged word, and respect for human rights do not exist, Rotary cannot live, nor its ideal prevail. And so the president of Rotary International stated that there must be a better way to settle international differences than violence, and called on Rotarians to find it. The Rotarian magazine ran essays, from all kinds of well-known persons at the time to encourage the discussion on the topic of peace. And they published a collection of essays in 42, 44, and 47, because they recognize that peace is a necessity. Of course, because they've been doing all of this work, the United Nations believed that they had something to contribute, and so they went to the Charter Conference, and they were instrumental. That is, Rotary International was instrumental in the creation of UNESCO, and they have the highest consultative status offered to an NGO by UNESCO. And so we see that there is this long marriage of peace in all the activities around big entities such as the UN from Rotary itself, because we have had Rotarians serving as presidents of the General Assembly and so on and so forth. Then move on to peace education, because this is not just something you get up and talk about. You have to understand it. And that is why founding member Paul Harris in 47 came up with the idea of scholarship program, where they would send graduate students to other countries for a year to, encourage higher education and promote greater understanding between people of different cultures and nationalities. Of course, these graduate programs are now integrated or incorporated into district and global grants. And of course, peace forums arose to raise awareness, peace centers were developed to provide opportunities, and now the Rotary Foundation provides scholarship for peace fellows to join established peace programs. Other people can apply if the Rotary nominate you, then obviously they have to recommend you. But if you are not a Rotarian, it doesn't mean you can have access to some of these. I suppose in the Q&A, Peace Fellow Oberlin can give you some more information on that. So what the idea is that the peace centers will develop leaders who will be catalysts for peace in local communities and on the global stage. They are expected to become this moving energy for peace. They studied, because peace fellows study the causes of conflict, build practical skills. They explored innovative solutions to real world problems in order to do that. And of course, human rights, international relations, and global health and development are just some of the areas they explore. So peace for all times is a quest that I think we are still working on as people. And Rotary's goal basically is to create environments where peace can be built and maintained through sustainable and measurable activities in communities worldwide. So this then led to the partnership with the Institute for Economics and Peace that provide tools and resources to help Rotary in that goal. So let me just quickly tell you about the Institute for Economics and Peace. We call it the IEP. Rotary partnered with them in 2017. And this partnership helps strengthen Rotary's commitment to building and maintaining conditions conducive to peace. Because the shared understanding and commitment to sustainable peace is the basis for this strategic partnership, so that we can have new investments in peace. We can understand the attitudes, the institutions, and the structures of more peaceful society. And of course, the relevance of those things to Rotary's grassroots work in communities. So what does the IEP does? It helps to eliminate peace and the drivers of peace. It provides a rationale and it provides data that peace builders like Rotarians and anybody else interested in peace work can use to enhance the impact of their own initiatives. So the two organizations complement each other in many ways. And what Rotary does, it mirrors the IEP's dedication to cultivating positive peace. So this partnership focuses on both peace education and community-based programming. It brings together the work of each organization in a way that enhances and adds unique value to the field of peace and conflict prevention and resolution. So the IEP came up with 8 pillars of positive peace and in a framework, and it provides a unique structure for us to view peace as a process and a system rather than a product or a result. Help us to build capacity among Rotary members and how we think about peace and development. The partnership provides us with educational resources to help move our initiatives forward. And so the core focus then is educational and community-based programming for Rotary stakeholders so that we can help shift attitudes and approaches to peace building and to create meaningful change in our communities by applying the framework of positive peace to our intervention. So we don't just want to go hand out something and walk away and without leaving something about peace. And as I go further, you will see hopefully how you could do it, without a lot of expertise, because there are some things that we know already. So just to give you some credibility to the work, it's an independent of IEP. It's an independent, not-for-profit think tank. It is dedicated to the study and understanding of the intersection between business, peace, and economics, and it places special emphasis on the metrics to measure peace, operational programs to improve peace, and of course the economic benefits of peace. So the work is data driven, it's research based, it provides insight into the drivers that create long-term peace. Their research is extensively used by governments, academic institutions, other think tanks, and NGOs and international organizations such as the UN, World Bank, and so on. Now, rethinking the meaning of peace is what it is behind the work of the IEP, because they develop a new way of thinking about peace as well as a new way of measuring peacefulness. And they are not the first to say that peace is not just the absence of war. You can think about people like Martin Luther King Jr. and a whole host of peace workers that would say, the absence of conflict is not, it doesn't necessarily mean that there is peace. What this is negative peace. So what the IEP is saying, what we need to promote is positive peace, because it is more lasting and it is built on sustainable investments in economic development and institutions, as well as social attitudes that foster peace. So a definition then is that negative peace or actual peace is the absence of violence or the fear of violence. However, positive peace. No, you hear me saying these three phrases earlier: the attitudes, the institutions, and the structures. If you leave here today, remember that. The attitudes, the institutions, and the structures that create and sustain peaceful society. Because when you look at the institutions that we have, the structures that we have in place, and the attitudes of everybody, that is where we start to see some of the challenges that we really have. So the positive peace framework that IEP came up with is what they call the 8 positive peace pillars, right? Well-functioning government, equitable distribution of resources, free flow of information, good relations with neighbors, high levels of human capital, acceptance of the rights of others, low levels of corruption, sound business environment. And this is kind of small. I don't know how well you can see it, but largely, when you have a well-functioning government, it is going to deliver high-quality public and civil services, and it will engender trust and participation. And you will get political stability, and it will uphold the rule of law. Equitable distribution of resources. When the country is peaceful, they tend to ensure there's equity in access to resources such as education, health, and to a lesser extent, equity in income distribution. Free flow of information. You have free and independent media. Now the landscape is replete with independent media, the social media platforms and so on, that will disseminate information in a way that leads to greater knowledge and helps individual, business, and civil society make better decisions. And of course, this will lead to better outcomes and more rational responses in times of crisis. Now we know some of the challenges with information that is floating around all over the place. But basically, again, it is when we have people with the same mindset that we're going to get rid of some of these false information. Good relations with neighbors, peaceful relations with other countries, very important, as well as good relations between groups within a country. Because within countries, you have communities against communities, families against families, and so on. So we want, and of course, when the country has that kind of internal and external relationship that is positive and good, they tend to be more politically stable, have better functioning government, are regionally integrated, and have lower levels of organized internal conflict. High levels of human capital continues to be a struggle because every country needs skilled human capital base that reflects the extent to which the societies educate their citizens, promote the development of knowledge, and thereby improving their economic productivity, how they care for the young, the kind of political participation that you find in that country, and the level of social capital that is there. Acceptance of the rights of others continue to be a challenge for many people across the world. Peaceful countries often have formal laws that guarantee basic human rights. And not just having the laws, but have the will and so on to ensure that those laws are respected and upheld. People have freedoms, again, respected and upheld. And of course, the informal social and cultural norms that relate to behaviors of citizens. Because the formal laws can have one set of values being upheld and pushed, but the informal behaviors and attitudes and the culture is not being addressed. And if that is not being addressed fully, then you find a gap between what the law says and what people actually do. And we do know that you can't legislate for attitude. You have to educate people to come to a certain acceptance of what it means to have good relations, to respect others, and so on. Low levels of corruption challenge all over the place. In societies with high levels of corruption, resources are inefficiently allocated, often leading to a lack of funding for essential services. And of course, it can lead to civil unrest. Where you have low corruption, you can enhance confidence and trust in your institutions of the state. And of course, the private institutions. A sound business environment, again, the strength of our economic conditions in our country, as well as the formal institutions that we have in place that supports the operation of the private sector is important. And business competitiveness and economic productivity are both associated with the most peaceful countries. So basically, that is what the IEP is saying. And positive peace provides a framework then for us to understand and then address the multiple and complex challenges the world face. That is why they believe that positive peace is transformational. It is a cross-cutting factor for progress, making it easier for businesses to sell, entrepreneurs to innovate, individuals to produce, and governments to effectively regulate. In addition to the absence of violence, positive peace is also associated with desirable social characteristics such as better economic outcomes, measures of well-being, and environmental performance. So how do you go about measure peace? The IEP is of the view that if you can't measure it, then how can you understand it? So what are their most influential reports each year is the Global Peace Index, born from the passion for peace to be measurable, communicable, and teachable. So it looks at, it measures first the concept of peace, that is real or negative peace. And it ranks 163 countries and territories worldwide. And those places cover 99.7% of the world's population, according to their relative level of peace. And the assessment is done on a continuum from very peaceful, moderately peaceful, or not very peaceful. And the GPI, that is the Global Peace Index, is the world's leading measure of peacefulness. So when you look how they do it, they use 23 quantitative and qualitative indicators to measure peace. So you have 10, you have 3 domains, that is societal safety and security, the ongoing domestic and international conflict, and militarization. And within those, in the first one, societal safety and security, we have 10 measures. And they look at things like refugees and internally displaced persons, impact of terrorism, homicide, and incarceration rates. We'll come back to that one about homicide. And then you look again, ongoing domestic and international conflict, intensity of organized internal conflict, relations with neighbors, with neighboring countries, that is, number of deaths from conflicts, military expenditure, how much of your money is spent on military expenditure. It used to be a debate when I did basic economics, first year economics, they used to talk about it was a choice between guns and butter. Would love to know what they are saying now. Number of armed service personnel that a country has to have, and the ease of access to small weapons. So those are some of the issues. Now, so let us quickly look at levels of peacefulness. The most peaceful countries, Iceland, at the top since 2008. And of course, they are joined by Ireland, Austria, New Zealand, and Singapore. Last year, the lineup was slightly different, I think. Least peaceful country, the lineup has actually changed because Yemen is now the least peaceful country in the world, followed by Sudan, South Sudan, Afghanistan, and Ukraine. And Yemen is at the top for the first time because Afghanistan had been at the top for the last, I think, 8 years too. So Yemen has fallen 24 places in the ranking. And so the gap between the most and least peaceful countries in the world is now wider than it has been at any point in the last 16 years. And compared to 2008, the most peaceful countries were 1% more peaceful in 2024, while the 25 least peaceful countries were 7.5% less peaceful. And of course, the conflict in Gaza hasn't helped. Israel and Palestine, again, they have suffered great first and fourth deteriorations in peacefulness, respectively. Ecuador, Gabon, Haiti, other countries with the largest deteriorations in peacefulness. And 100 countries are at least partially involved in some form of external conflict in the past 5 years, and that has increased from 59 in 2008. So in most countries, countries were offering support to existing government against an internal armed rebel or terrorist group. And so we have 56 active conflicts currently, the most since the end of World War II. We have fewer conflicts being resolved either militarily or through peace agreements. The number of conflicts that ended in decisive victory fell from 49% in the 1970s to just 9% in the 2010s. And while conflict that ended through peace agreements fell from 23% to 4% over the same period. We now have 92 countries now engage in conflict beyond their borders, the most since the IEP started to put out the index in 2008. So the globe is less peaceful. And so this is the 12th deterioration in peacefulness in the last 16 years. We had 65 countries improving and 97 deteriorating in this current report, the 2024 report that they put out just this January here. So this is the highest number of countries deteriorating again since 2008. 17 of those indicators that I spoke about earlier under the 3 domains have deteriorated between 2008 and 2023, while only 7 have improved. And 2 of the 3 domains have also deteriorated since 2008. We have ongoing conflict deteriorating by 19.1%, and safety and security deteriorating by 1.7%. Militarization has improved again because we are spending more and we are recruiting more people for our armed services and so on. And I suspect small arms are probably more available. So the North America recorded the largest regional deterioration in peacefulness, with both Canada and the US recording large falls in peacefulness. And of course, driven by violent crime and perceptions of criminality. But despite that, it remains the third most peaceful region behind Europe and Asia Pacific. Our area, Jamaica and the Caribbean, we are mentioned, we are belong to Central America, and we have recorded large reductions in the number of homicides in that as a group. Central America and Caribbean, however, still had the highest average homicide rate of any region, while you have other people having terrorism and whatnot. Our problem in this region is homicide. It tells us that we have to pay attention to what happens in terms of our internal relationship, how we distribute resources, how we treat people, how we respect the rights of others. And so those are things that we have to pay attention to. So peacefulness in the Caribbean deteriorated slightly, with an average deterioration in their score of 0.17%. Of the 12 countries grouped together here as Central America and Caribbean, 5 countries improved and 7 deteriorated compared to 2023. And of course, the overall peacefulness was largely driven by large deterioration in external conflicts fought and internal conflicts fought, and in political terror scale, as several countries in the region grappled with the ongoing impact of high levels of organized crime and civil unrest. Hope you can see where we fall in terms of our country. Some countries is 163 countries, but not everybody is represented in it. But if we can see Costa Rica doing well, Jamaica is third. We had a 0.007 change in our score. DAMREP had that. El Salvador is the country that we said has been doing great so far in the region. Haiti has had, a big challenge where peacefulness is concerned. You can see where the countries rank in the out of the 160. Jamaica is at 91. Costa Rica is the best performing country, obviously. El Salvador is up. And of course, we see Haiti struggling there. So what is the economic impact of violence on the global economy? 19.1 trillion in purchasing power parity, PPP terms. This figure, they say, is equivalent to 13.5% of the world's economic activity, i.e. gross world product, or put it at the micro level, 2,380 US dollars per person. And of course, military and external security expenditure accounts for over 74% of the total economic impact of violence. The economic impact of military spending alone accounts for 8.4 trillion in the past year. So, are there any benefits to pushing and promoting and working for positive peace? Yes, because positive peace will help countries create the optimal environment for human potential to flourish. And so if you have a high level of positive peace, the countries are more resilient and able to recover from natural disasters or man-made disasters, have higher per capita income, have better performance on their ecological measures to protect their environment, have higher measures of well-being and happiness, have stronger measures of social cohesion, and they show better performance on sustainable development goals, the SDGs. So as Rotarians, this framework allows us a variety of pathways to become peace builders. We can leverage our volunteer work, our community service, and our roles as community leaders and business leaders. And when you look at specific pillars of positive peace that are present in society, you can see that the Rotary projects in related areas of focus are more likely to be effective. And so our investments in communities through projects in the 7 areas help us to bolster positive peace, creating a virtual cycle, one that is beneficial. Right now, we know we're out there doing stuff, but we still caught in a vicious cycle because you're going and you do something at a school and it doesn't really move the needle because the overall problems of attitudes and structures and so on continue to remain the same. So you keep getting in this feedback loop the same non-beneficial results. And so when you look at the 7 areas of focus, I believe that you are able to see how they complement each other and are relatable. Based on what we just said, even if you are not a Rotarian, I believe you can see it. So let us quickly look at, for example, where there's a well-functioning government that provides the vital infrastructure, schools, hospital, and so on, and ensure that there is essential service in maternal and child health, effective treatment and prevention of disease, and adequate quality of education for its citizens. Then we have a problem. I remember one year our club had to pay for water to be trucked to a community that had no water for a few decades. And the complaint of the community was there were a number of pregnant and lactating mothers, and of course, infant in that community. So maternal health is not just about hospitalization. What is the status of the community that you go back and live? So while we were able to do that, we were stressed because we recognized that was just a very, very stopgap situation. We wrote and advocated for community tanks to be put up and so on and so on. So we do try to go beyond the obvious because we have to advocate when we see things that we're doing in the 7 areas of focus, not giving us the sustainable benefit that we want. That is when somehow we have to find ways to advocate without becoming politicized. That's the whole idea of where Rotary is concerned. Politicized from a partisan point of view. So again, welcome functioning government crafts economic and community development policies that incorporate clear poverty alleviation goals and target the most vulnerable. So when local, regional, and national governments have ownership of water, sanitation, service provision, then we get longer term sustainability, right? And look at low levels of corruption. Again, you have higher investment in healthcare, delivering maternal and child health, disease prevention and treatment. And in terms of economic and community development, if the state is combating illicit financial flows, then you free up resources and you contribute to the environment needed to foster growth. And when you have low levels of corruption, trust develops between end users and service producers in water and sanitation projects. So finally, higher levels of corruption generally result in an unequitable distribution of resources. It impacts the access schools and colleges have to much needed funding. And conversely, there exists a positive correlation between lower rates of corruption and improvement in education. So this is a diagram. If you go on the Rotary pages, peace pages, and so on, you will see how they show you what Rotary stands for in its 7 areas of focus and how it correlates and supports, and basically there's a positive correlation between the 8 pillars of peace. So basically, I know this is long. Moving forward, whether you're a Rotarian, we can't do it without members of the community. We can network and connect with Rotary peace builders and other peace builders. You can join the Rotary Action Group for Peace. You can help get help in planning and implementing service projects that relates to peace. You can access the Rotary IEP partnership tools. You can train on the Rotary Peace Activator. You don't have to be a Rotarian. You can train as an IEP ambassador. And you, by doing that, you can get up and facilitate positive peace discussions and bring together Rotarians and community leaders to learn about positive peace. And so, think about it. Just leaving this meeting, we can all commit to go in our communities and our groups and interact with people and work on this whole business of building and promoting good relationship. We can talk about acceptance of the right of others, and we can contribute to higher levels of human capital based on what we do in our homes to raise our youth, how we interact with children of school age, and so on. So we can do it, and I'm challenging you, Rotarians and non-Rotarians, that whatever field you are in, field of endeavor you are in, you can make positive peace integral to that and help us to transform our societies. I hope I have shared enough. I just want to put up last thing here, which is because I figure that I might have run over my time. I always use this from Sheshin Roy. Oh, dreamers of peace, come let us walk together. Oh, lovers of peace, come let us run together. Oh, servers of peace, come let us grow together. So please get involved with the IEP through the ambassador program, the positive peace workshops, whatever strategic partnership, the peace academy, and so on. You can go online and get the peace index. You can get other indices that they have, and so on and so forth. These are there. They have the global terrorism, the ecological threat, the global peace, and the positive peace. These are kind of old one. I just drop in this new one because this is the latest one, but I'm certain that these are also up to date. But you can read as far back as you want. So, thank you most kindly for listening, and we are open to questions and comment.
Thank you so much, PP Novlet. We're going to go right into the questions and answers. We probably have about 10 minutes for that. So, any burning questions? We have limited time, so please proceed with the question. If there's any in the chat. Madam
Until
Secretary,
we have a question,
until
we have a question, President, someone is asking if a recording of this presentation is available. It will be made available by end of day today on the Rotary Club of Manor Park's Facebook page.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Important information. I know PP Novlet was very thorough, very comprehensive, thorough. So I don't know if we probably had all our questions answered. No problems with that. If we have no questions, I'll give another. To see if any questions coming forward.
Just walking it up. What was that? I tried
you said
see
quite
how
a bit,
I could
quite a lot.
cover. Yes. I was
yes.
trying to kind of show how this is an ongoing work, a process,
right.
And hopefully we get us involved. So, Judy and Neil, I see Judy and Neil. Hand is up, Prezi. Welcome, Rotarian, Judy and Neil.
Yes, thank you. So I just wanted to thank Past President Novlet for that outstanding presentation. Very insightful. There's a lot of gems that we can learn from it. And we all have a part to play in this process. I'd just like to ask if you could comment on the value of social intervention programs in assisting with lowering the rates of crime in the societies, and what can we do if we are not doing this to impact the level of criminal activities in Jamaica?
So social intervention programs, they have a place, obviously. It can't, because what Rotarians do is social interventions, even though we don't call them that. When you talk about going out there and providing service to help economic development and community development, obviously. I think though, what we need to see infused in these social intervention projects and programs is a deliberate integration of the idea of reducing conflicts, building good relationship, acceptance of the rights of other persons, educate people about the importance of the rule of law. So if you, for example, we have a lot of social intervention projects in Jamaica around sports. When I was an active police officer, we had to deny permission for people to engage in sporting activities because the intelligence was telling us that the violence would be attendant, and we had so many of them. No. So within the community that you find some people participating in sporting activity because people lack the knowledge and the skills and the tools of how to have good relationship, to be sportsmanlike, to basically resolve differences in a peaceful means. The sporting event becomes an avenue to get back at somebody. So either a spectator or a participant in the actual sporting game itself. So if you're not conscious of how you educate your people, when we talk about high levels of human capital development, it can't be just about academic work. It is about what it means to live in peace with yourself and with others. So social interventions program, I think they are invaluable, but it's a question of how we frame them, how we structure them, and the essential tools that we put in there. We have to teach people core life skills from their young age, from school age. So if you teach people core life skills, one of the skills that you're going to be teaching is about peace building and conflict prevention, respecting the rights of others, and so on and so forth. So I hope that helps. And I see your hand went back up.
No, that was me applauding you for that answer.
Okay.
Thank you so very much.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I see you have a commendation there from Pierpoint Wilson. The question, a commendation.
Thank
All
you.
right. If there are no more questions.
Just one quick comment, President, not to hold
Yes, PP Richard.
I just want to say that the concept of positive peace is a new one for me. It's a very interesting concept, and I can see the importance of making the distinction between actual peace and positive peace and what actions can flow from it. So I just want to emphasize that. I know that was the whole point of the presentation, but
Yes,
for
it is.
me, the distinction, maybe I'm late to the game, but this distinction is very important, and I can understand the value of making that important distinction.
Yes.
I agree with you there to record.
Because
it sounds a little bit academic. The topic sounds a little academic to me before you open it up saying, boy, positive. What is that? But thank you so much for the clarity that you brought.
And structures and so on in a society. Is either going to give you, is how you deal with them, is either going to give you negative or positive peace. And the distinction further too is that negative peace is measured using things like how many dead bodies you have lying around, the level of fear of crime that you have in your society. So it's about crime suppression, militarism, and armed conflict. That is how we measure negative or actual peace. Whereas in positive peace, we are looking at, it is derived from the analysis that the statistical analysis and the attitudes that we have from the attitudes and the structures and so on in the society that lead to a more peaceful society. I think I see another hand up there, Prezi. Miss Rotarian Stephanie, is it?
Yes,
Stephanie,
good afternoon.
go right ahead, please.
Great presentation, and I wonder, do you all email presentation?
No, Stephanie, we're short on people. So that's why we have a Facebook page, darling. We're a small club. So
okay, no problem.
Yeah, you can find it. Yeah, go to Rotary Club of Manor Park on Facebook. Rotary Club of Manor Park, you'll find it. See another hand
let me butt in, guys, simply because a lot of us are extremely busy. And one of the things we've tried to do in Rotary is to ensure that we're efficient. So we've streamed it live on Facebook. That is where you can rerun it.
Hand up maybe to ask a question, PPA.
Pardon me?
Hand up. They want a hand up.
Yes, one more. But Nobs, we have to watch the time because
that was a very last question if we have one.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we have one?
Yes, there's one.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you very much, Director Andrew from Rotary Club of Kingston East and Port Royal. I'm speaking very quickly, Alison. So yes, I congratulated you on a very relatable presentation and asking a question. At what point does high crime become a part of our culture?
At point?
At what point can we say, crime is now a part ingrained in our culture as a people?
Actually, I wouldn't call it crime. I would call it violence. Mankind has been violent for forever, almost, I would think. And violence is a problem. Remember, you criminalize some of it and you don't criminalize some. So the law said this behavior is criminal and it will ignore some. So if you take domestic violence, for example, financial violence is impact people in a home when there's financial deprivation. But the law don't call it a crime. They don't call verbal abuse a crime, but verbal abuse is still violence. So that is why this IEP designation not the outcome we want. They're not beneficial. So everybody have to start to pay attention to what they do. All right. I hope that answers your question. One of these days you need to come to one of my domestic violence intervention workshops and then we can delve some more in these issues. Thank you, PPA.
Thank you.
I think that's it. I'm done.
And thank you. Now, PP Alison to give the vote to that.
Yes, so as you know, I know everybody's busy. We tried to keep to an hour, but this was so amazing. I'm going to be very quick. I'm not going to repeat. Thank you, Past President Novlet, for giving us the history of Rotary in peace. As Rotarians, sometimes we say things and don't quite understand them. It is wonderful to always learn from you and your long history of being a peace builder in Jamaica. No, you're a peace builder.
Yes.
You're bigger than office. And thank you for waking us up to making us understand that the avenues of service in Rotary must include peace. And what does positive peace mean? We are all peace advocates. And remember, a lot of us go to church. Let the peace begin with me. With that said, I do not want to be the conflict why we are late for work and late for lunch. So I now turn it back over to our president. I said, thank you, Rotarians, for coming. Thank you for Secretary Yasmin for sending this out. Thank you, Novlet, for thank you, everybody who's here. Otherwise, we'll be talking to ourselves. Have an amazing rest of the week. And we got a charge from our past president, Loveless, about peace. Back to you, Prezi.
All right. And I just